Hi friends, today we are going to see about water balance. That is water balance in a human body. So we know that we are taking a water, we are drinking water. So through which we are getting the water source. But apart from that, by taking carbohydrate, protein, fats, we are getting some amount of water. So for 1 gram of carbohydrate, we will get 0.6 ml of water. For 1 gram of protein, we will get 0.4 ml of water. For 1 gram of fat, we will get 1.1 ml of water. Hence, as a total 1000 kilocalories will produce 125 ml of water. So, what are the factors which will control either the intake of water and also the output of the water? So, first, how we will take water? By thirst and also by rate of metabolism. So, our osmolality in our blood will stimulate the thirst, and by which we will be taking the water. If there is more osmolality, it means there will be more of solutes comparing to solvent. So in that case, our thirst center will be activated and we will be taking water. So this is how it is occurring. So next, it is factors affecting the output, that is excretion. So we know that there will be two ways of excretion of water. One is through renal function, through urine, and the other is by skin, that is by sweat. Always our intake of water is equal to the output of the water, that is 2750 ml. That is constant or normal amount of intake and normal amount of output. So if we are going to see the classification, how our water is distributed in our body, we can take this. Here you can see total body water, which is 60% of our body weight. If it is 100 kg, then it is 60 kg will be of our water. So in that 60 kg, 60% of body weight, our intracellular water will be 40%. Then that remaining 20% is our extracellular water, that is intracellular. It means the water which is present inside the cell, whereas extracellular is which is present either in the interstitial fluid or it can be in the blood. So our 40% will be inside the cell and 20% will be present outside the cell. That 20% will be classified, or that 20% will be distributed as intravascular 4% and extravascular as 16%. That is, inside our blood vessel we will have only 4% of our total body water. This extravascular, it means it is interstitial fluid. There it is 16%. So total body water is 60%. If we are going to see how it is distributed, intracellular 40 and extracellular 20. In that extracellular 20%, 4% will be inside the vessel and 16% will be in the interstitial fluid. So this is how our body water is distributed in our body. So next, when we are talking about water, that is a solvent, we have to talk about solute, that is going to give the osmolality to our blood. What is osmolality? It is nothing but an osmotic pressure which is exerted by number of moles per kg of the solvent. So this is the definition. But as for understanding what it is, this is our blood vessel. In the blood vessel, I have mentioned this blue line which is our water content, and this red dots as our solutes. So this red dot, which is the solute, is going to give the pressure, that is our osmotic pressure to the blood vessels. So if that is less, if your pressure is going to be less, what it will cause? It will make this water to come out of the vessel, and hence the fluid will come out and it will get accumulated in interstitial fluid, which will leads to what? It will leads to edema. So this is very important. When our osmotic gradient is decreased, the water will move out of the vessel, leading to edema. So which is the major component which is maintaining our blood osmotic balance? It is by albumin. In case of decreased albumin, that is hypoalbuminemia, will cause water and salt to come out of the vessel, causing the edema. So the major determinant factor here, it is sodium. Whenever the water is moving out, our sodium will also move out. So when the sodium is decreased along with water, then it is hypotonic condition, because sodium is going to give the tonicity, that is decreased, and water is also decreased. If it is decreased in equal amount, then it will be isotonic contraction. If the loss of sodium is more than the water, then it is hypotonic condition. What is the normal plasma osmolality? Normal plasma osmolality is from 285 to 295 milliosmol per kg. This osmolality will be maintained by kidney. If there is decreased osmolality, it will prevent the excretion of solutes. If there is more of plasma osmolality, more of solutes will be excreted out. So that will be maintained by our kidney. So next, here you can see a blood vessel which has increased glucose or increased mannitol. For example, we are giving IV dextrose. So in that condition, there will be increased levels of glucose and mannitol inside the vessel. So what it is going to cause? It will push the water and sodium out of the vessels. So it will come and accumulate in the interstitial fluid. This is the condition which we call it as dilutional hyponatremia. There will be more of water. Since it is more of glucose, the sodium component will be less or it will come out. So that is the dilutional hyponatremia. We will see about the electrolyte imbalances in future. In that we will explain what is dilutional hyponatremia in detail. So next we are going to see what is the regulation, how it is regulated. There will be some hormones which is responsible. First it is aldosterone. Second it is antidiuretic hormone. Third it is renin angiotensin system. So if it is aldosterone, that is going to regulate sodium and potassium exchange and also sodium and hydrogen exchange, causing sodium retention. So how it is activated? By activation of renin angiotensin system. If renin is activated, your angiotensinogen will be converted to angiotensinogen converted to angiotensin 1, which will converted to angiotensin 2 by ACE, which will be stimulating aldosterone in the adrenal cortex, and it will be causing increased sodium and water retention. So the second hormone which is regulating is antidiuretic. The name itself telling antidiuretic. What it means? It is going to cause water retention. It is not going to allow the water. Antidiuretic. Diuretic means excretion of water. Antidiuretic means not going to excrete. It is going to do water retention. So in case of antidiuretic hormone, if it is stimulated, there will be more of water will be absorbed. How it is occurring? In case of increased plasmolality, what it means? There will be more of solute compared to the solvent. So if there is more of solutes, there will be stimulation of osmoreceptors to the hypothalamus, that solutes are more and solvent is less. So we need more of water in our body. So it is going to stimulate the antidiuretic hormone and water will be retention occurs. And hence with help of aldosterone, sodium retention occurred. With help of ADH, water resorption occurred. Finally, renin angiotensin system, which is going to stimulate this both the aldosterone and also ADH. It will also stimulate the thirst center and causing increased water intake, and hence it will cause increased sodium and water reabsorption. So this is the three hormones or three regulations for sodium and water balance in our body. So how the renin angiotensin system is activated? If our extracellular fluid volume is less. What it means extracellular fluid volume? Nothing but intravascular fluid. So if our intravascular fluid volume is less, then our blood flow to renal system will decrease. If blood flow to renal system will be decreased, there will be stimulation of renin by the juxtaglomerular cells. So if the renin is stimulated, your aldosterone, ADH and also your thirst center will be stimulated. So we will see renin aldosterone angiotensin action in future. So next it is pathway of angiotensin production. This we already said. Angiotensinogen is converted to angiotensin 1 by renin. This renin will be stimulated by decreased BP. When there will be decreased BP? If there is decreased salt or hypotonicity. In this condition, renin will be stimulated. in the JG cells. It will be converted angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1, which is converted to 2 by ACE enzyme, which is again converted to angiotensin 3. These two are responsible for degradation of the products. So here comes the renin-aldosterone activation system. Renin-aldosterone activation system, up to this we have already covered how angiotensinogen is converted to angiotensin 2. In angiotensin 2, it will have action on hypothalamus, it has action on heart, it has action on adrenal cortex. So if hypothalamus is activated, it will stimulate the thirst and ADH will be stimulated. It will increase the ECF volume. So if ECF volume is increased, what it means? There will be more of water in the blood vessel. So it is going to increase the BP. If it is going to act on heart, it is going to cause vasoconstriction and hence BP is also going to be increased. If it is going to act on adrenal cortex, it will stimulate the aldosterone, and aldosterone will cause sodium and water retention. So this is how our renin-aldosterone activation system is working. So the next important one is disturbance of fluid. So if there is some disturbance to this fluid and solvent and solute in our vessel, it is going to cause hypertonicity or hypotonicity. So tonicity means proportion of solvent to solute. So if your solute is more, it is hypertonicity. If our solvent is more, it is called hypotonicity. So what will cause with hypertonicity? So hypertonicity will increase the osmolality. Yes, of course there will be increased solute comparing to solvent. So this increased solute is responsible for increasing the plasma osmolality. If our solute is less, osmolality is less. So based on this, we have two types. We can classify this as either contraction or it can be expansion. For example, if you are going to take hypotonicity, it can be either hypotonic contraction or hypotonic expansion. How it is going to occur? So always expansion means increased water. Always expansion means increased water or swelling of cells. Contraction means water is going out. The cells are shrinking. So that is contraction. So based on that, here you can see isotonic contraction. What is isotonic contraction? Isotonic means water and salt are equal, but it is contracted. Then what it means? There is loss of both sodium and water. So if both are lost, their proportion will be equal, but as a total it has been lost. Hence it is isotonic contraction. So example you can see in GI fluid, which is done by fistula or it can be due to perforation. So in this condition, like in isotonic condition, patient won't feel thirsty. They won't have any thirsty feeling because the water and salt proportion are equal. If there is some imbalance, it will cause thirst. Since it is equal, our plasma sodium will look normal. Hence there won't be any thirsty feeling. This is called isotonic contraction. So this is what we have said before, which is abnormality of ECF volume. It can be either ECF contraction or ECF expansion. ECF is extracellular fluid. Extracellular fluid is either intravascular or interstitial fluid. Mostly we will be considering the interstitial fluid. So here you can call it as isotonic contraction, hypotonic contraction, hypertonic contraction, or isotonic expansion, hypotonic expansion and hypertonic expansion. So if it is contraction, both will be lost. If hypotonic contraction, what it means? Hypotonic, your solute is less, so loss of sodium. What is hypertonic contraction? There is loss of water. So always contraction means there will be loss. If hypotonic, loss of sodium. If hypertonic, loss of water. What about ECF expansion? ECF expansion, isotonic expansion. Always expansion means there will be gain. If it is hypotonic expansion, there will be gain of water because your solute is less, water is more. That's what it means, hypotonic expansion. Hypertonic means increase in sodium. Okay. So here is the example for isotonic contraction, which is either IV fluid infusion or Addison's disease. Let us see these two mechanism, how these two are causing isotonic contraction. First it is IV fluid. Mostly with IV fluid we will give either normal saline or dextrose. So in first condition we will consider we are giving dextrose to a patient who is on nil per oral post-operatively. So in that condition, what it will cause? The dextrose fluid will contain low sodium. So the patient will go for hypoosmolality. If our osmolality is less, there will be inhibition to antidiuretic hormone. Yes or no? So it should not, already your solute is less, so it should not retain more water. The water should be excreted out. Then only there will be a balance between sodium and water. Hence it will inhibit ADH. So more of water loss will occur. Hence our sodium and water composition will be equal and our plasma sodium will be restored to a normal level. So in this condition it will looks like normal, but there is more of water loss happening, which may not be good for many patients. So in that condition we have to supply normal saline. So this normal saline, which contain more of sodium and also water, so the loss of water through dextrose will be compensated by infusion of normal saline. This is what the mechanism of IV fluid dextrose infusion. Next it is, hence finally we are talking about isotonic contraction, because here low sodium and water is also lost. Both are lost but in equal amount, hence it is causing isotonic contraction. The one more example is Addison's disease. How Addison's disease will cause isotonic contraction? There will be deficiency of aldosterone in Addison's disease, that we know. If aldosterone is deficient, there will be less retention of sodium and water, hence there will be hypoosmolality. So what sodium will be less, our osmolality will be decreased, that we know very well. So this hypoosmolality is going to inhibit the ADH, the same mechanism as I said for the IV fluid. So when it is going to inhibit ADH, there will be more of water loss. Hence the sodium which has been lost due to deficiency of aldosterone will be compensated by water loss. But if water loss is more, it will stimulate the ADH now. At first aldosterone inhibited ADH, because of that water loss happened, but now water loss is happening now. So to prevent that, our ADH will be stimulated and hence more of water will again be restored. So now what will happen? Sodium is lost, water is gaining more. So in our blood there will be more of water. It is called as hemodilution condition. There is more of water compared to salt. Hence the sodium level will decreases, which is called as hyponatremia. So this is how an Addison's disease is causing hyponatremia and hemodilution by isotonic contraction. So next comes the hypertonic contraction. So hypertonic contraction means contraction, it is loss. What is loss in hypertonic? Loss of water. So more of sodium is there. So in case of diarrhea, vomiting and excessive sweating, there will be more of water loss compared to sodium. Hence there will be hypertonicity in these conditions. So now we will see why there is excess water loss. So this excess water loss due to this condition will decrease our renal blood flow. If renal blood flow is decreased, I have already said it will stimulate aldosterone. So there will be more of sodium retention. But in this condition only water is lost. Sodium was normal, but due to water loss there is again an aldosterone stimulation and sodium retention occurring, which will aggravate the hypertonicity, causing hypertension. The other mechanism is increased osmolality due to sodium level will stimulate the thirst, because water is less, sodium is more, we need more water to compensate that. So it is going to stimulate the thirst center. So more of water will be intake. More water intake, what it will cause? Antidiuretic hormone secretion. So it will prevent the water excretion. Hence our urine volume will be decreased. Hence sodium is also deposited and our water will also be accumulated. So this is how our hypertonic contraction will occurs. So here you can see for expansion, the three types of expansion: isotonic, hypertonic and hypotonic expansion. So in isotonic expansion, example is hypoalbuminemia. There will be increased interstitial fluid, water and increased interstitial fluid, salt retention. So if there is edema occurring due to hypoalbuminemia, what it means? There will be less water in the vessel but more of water present outside the vessels. So it is causing hypovolemia. So if hypovolemia is occurred, it will activate the renin-aldosterone activation system. So hypovolemia, less water, so decreased renal blood flow. Decreased renal blood flow will stimulate the renin and activate the aldosterone action. So aldosterone is activated, we know it will cause sodium water retention. Again there will be more of sodium and water, but in this condition we have salt and water. There won't be any decrease in salt and water. The problem is with albumin, but since it is not present inside the vessel, it will again cause sodium and water retention. Again it will stimulate edema because albumin has not yet corrected, leading to hypertension and cardiac failure. So this is an example for isotonic expansion. So next it is hypertonic and hypotonic expansion. Here first we will see hypotonic. What is hypotonic expansion? There will be what? Expansion means more of water, decreased sodium. So in Cohen syndrome and Cushing syndrome, which causes increased mineralocorticoid level, sodium will be retention. So once sodium has been accumulated, there will be increased osmolality occurring. So if there is increased osmolality, our water should not be excreted out. So it will stimulate the ADH to maintain this salt level, and hence water will be reabsorbed. So this is what happening in hypotonic expansion. Next it is hypertonic expansion. In hypertonic expansion, the example is glomerular dysfunction and one more example is ADH. So in both the conditions, there will be increased water reabsorption. So if there is more of water comparing to what? Salt, so it will cause us hypoosmolality. Okay, so there will be glomerular dysfunction and ADH is excess. If antidiuretic hormone is excess, it will cause more or increased water retention. If more water retention occurring, it will leads to hypoosmolality in plasma. The hypoosmolality, it will be inhibit the aldosterone level. So if aldosterone level is decreased, the sodium will not be reabsorbed, it will be excreted out, so causing hyponatremia. Okay, so one more mechanism is this hypoosmolality, it will inhibit the ADH. This we have already discussed. Yes or no? If already osmolality is less, water should not be stored, it has to be excreted. Then only there will be some balance. So it will inhibit the ADH and there will be excess of water loss, which will improve this condition. So if this mechanism is not occurring, there will be overhydration leading to cell death or even unconsciousness. Okay, so I hope this will be informative and understandable. Let us discuss about the electrolyte imbalance in our next class.